Hello and welcome back to the WRAP podcast. This is yet another women's rugby special. Thank you so much for the amazing reaction to the first one. It did good numbers, guys and girls. So we're delighted to be back. I am joined by the normal cast of Captain Dr. Harley Worthy.
Hello, I've been given a promotion into the military now. Great.
Everyone's a Captain Doctor on this podcast. Captain Dr. Julia, hashtag okay, at okay Julia, rugby Julia, all the Julias. Hello.
Oh, hello. Howdy. Hey, y'all. Glad to be back.
I have to do this on the Scarlet's pod all the time. I always say things and everyone else just nods. And I'm like, nodding doesn't work on a podcast, people. And I'm also joined by Captain Dr. Sian Prescott, who some of you may know from the Pirate Rugby pod that we had on a couple of weeks ago. Sian, big Cardiff fan. And as our YouTube viewers can see, living it up on the coast of Barbados right now.
The coast of North Cardiff, yes. Hello, it's great to be here.
So we are here to chat about many things. We're here to chat PWR final. We're here to preview Wales's big game against Spain this Saturday, which is literally life or death. But first, as always, there's been some news. There's been some breaking news. And the WRU have today, Wednesday, the 26th of June, announced their new strategy. Like all big things, it happened on a Wednesday. Lots of words in it. Julia, what was your immediate reaction to the news?
I think you kind of encapsulated it a bit. It really was a lot of words. We were talking about it right before we started. Not a ton said there. Almost feels a little bit like we're waiting for an update or maybe some clarification. I think of everybody present on the pod right now, I probably have the least good look into the history that is behind there. But in terms of looking forward, I would love to be more excited and feel like maybe there's a more concrete plan. But as with everything with WRU, maybe there's going to be more that comes out later, and we might like it or hate it.
Sian, what was your view?
I haven't read through it all. We were talking about this earlier. There's a PDF. I've been going through it. There's a lot of pictures over words, bit of empty rhetoric. I think they've thrown bits in that they want us to see. That they think that, oh, that'll sound good. We want to increase growth in the women's game and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, of course we do. But there's no real sense of how they want to do it. There's an interesting bit in the women's section I noticed where they said they want to bring back the Welsh players in the PWR into the Welsh club game, which that was really interesting. It's kind of like a little side note, which I thought was interesting.
The side notes are interesting
because at
the bottom of some of the slides they say areas of reduced focus or something like that. It's called.
Yeah, so it's areas of reduced focus and rationale. If you give me two.
Areas of reduced rationale. That's new.
Reduced focus and rationale, yeah.
It's like that point I thought was really interesting. Oh, you sharing screen just to see.
Sorry,
yeah.
Here we go. So for YouTube
great.
viewers, you can see.
Oh, I'm Harley. I prepped.
There we go.
This is actually great. It really is what Sian was saying. It felt like so much lip service. So much we are saying the things we know you like to hear. I kept reading it and wondering, like, when are you going to get to the point?
Developing a compelling competition offering elite Welsh players. Yes, great.
You'd hope.
And the bottom of the bottom of, and then at the bottom, then we cannot deliver 0.3 without bringing some players back.
You're right. How are you going to do it?
Like that right now seems quite a way away.
So,
and I don't know how they're going to even do it.
And many of the players in PWR, we've talked about that before on other episodes as well. Many of the players, the Welsh players in the PWR, have addressed this directly. Alex Callender isn't in the PWR right now, has been before, isn't just because of contract weirdness and the way that it went with Worcester, but she said it. She wants to come back. Flaky George said she wants to come back. There is want for it, but as everybody who follows Welsh rugby knows, there isn't anywhere for them to go right now. So it's all nice. It's all nice to say, but
so they do say like higher up in the thing that they say they want all the domestic teams, men's and women's, to be more competitive in their leagues, and they name check the URC and the Celtic Challenge, which is interesting because we've spoken, all of us, before about how we don't know how long the Celtic Challenge is going to last as a competition or whether it's the stepping stone to something else. But this appears to suggest that they're expecting the Celtic Challenge to last at least till 2029. So I guess the place they would be bringing back these players to would be either Britain or Gwalior.
So that's interesting, and that is what I assumed. But then there is the flip side of that, which means so it will no longer be developmental, because if all those girls come back, they'll all, I don't see a 19-year-old like taking Kira Bevan's spot. Like I don't. Yeah. Well, I mean, and they are elite players. First of all, it's funny that I mentioned Kira Bevan because it's going to take a lot to take somebody away from something like the setup at Bears, the setup at Gloucester, the setup at Saracens.
You're 100% right. Like that's the other thing. It's going to be quite hard. Like on the one side, you have got players who do want to come back to Wales, but then it's still got to be lucrative for them. And the Bears has got such an amazing setup. The players have admitted this themselves, and they do have a great setup there. Why would you necessarily want to leave that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard.
Also, it's an interesting contrast in that on the men's slide, it says that the areas of reduced focus, it says that they bringing marquee players back to Harley. Will you stop scrolling, man?
So I was trying to find the right.
You were there. You're there. You're there.
Yeah, got it.
It says bringing all marquee male players back to Wales is no longer a area of focus, and it's going to be something they're not looking to do anymore. So they say consensus that we should be happy for some male players to pursue opportunities, monetary and performance overseas. If there is no compelling offer in Wales. So that's two different views then. So for the men, they're saying the top players should be allowed to leave, and for the women's, they're saying we need to bring the top players back. It's interesting. Now, let's be honest about it. Bringing the top women's players back is going to be a lot cheaper than bringing the top men's players back. And it's interesting from a men's team point of view about the 25 cap rule, which is a point of big discussion in Wales. All I can say is the current squad that's going on tour this summer has 10 non-Welsh based players in it, which is probably the most for a long time. So that's the kind of world we find ourselves in. It also references the sevens, saying that the men's sevens is basically no longer a thing they're going to do. But because so many women's rugby players also play sevens, there's so much crossover there that they are going to keep that door open.
I mean, they're going to have to, because on the flip side, I don't see. I mean, unless you say something like, I don't see you bringing a Jazz Joyce. Like, I don't see you able to offer Jazz Joyce something to come back. Otherwise, I not even Kaylee Powell, and those are only two. But we would hope, if it has to keep going this way, nobody is overjoyed about GB as the place to play them. Definitely not the Welsh players, but if it ends up being the place to go, like I don't see how you keep the younger folks who see that and want that, probably backs, and God knows the senior 15s team needs good backs. I don't see. I understand that they're not looking at it for the men, and okay, but if you want to bring the women back again, how?
I think that point about the reduced focus about bringing the male players back is interesting, because they're cutting all the funding for the regions anyway. So is that kind of an admission that, like, we can't keep the players in Wales, and it's all very well bringing in like caps, the limit to that, you can only play for Wales if you've got so many caps and all that kind of stuff, and then go abroad. And like, the reducing, we can't keep the players in Wales anyway. Like,
they admit it. They admit it in the next point.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's a bit of an admission. Like, well, we're just gonna have to let them go.
Another interesting point on the women's slide was that they said, now I'm going to make sure I get the wording right. It was about the offering of the number of clubs.
Yes, I saw that as well. I saw
I was
that.
seeing conversations about that as
So
well.
recognition that there is not yet the demand for all Welsh clubs to have women and girls offerings, and
Mm.
that
That's
there are, this is the interesting point, and that there are likely too many clubs even for the number of male players. Harley, what was your reaction to that?
I'll be honest, for me, that's something I've sort of. I mean, yes, it's a bit sad having the women's and girls, but I mean, at the same time, there's no point setting up a program and having stuff in place if you're not going to get the numbers to even play. I think it's something that we've had a lot of stories over the last couple of years where teams just can't fulfill fixtures due to lack of players because they're just too many. And I appreciate it's sad whenever a club has to close, either on a larger scale when you lose big fan bases, on the smaller scale when you lose these types of communities. But you do get situations where like a club, like a town might have two rugby clubs and neither of them are getting enough players for fixtures. And maybe as much as it's you're losing a rival, you've got a great rivalry or even two villages across, maybe it is time to start merging them up a little bit, just so that there are enough players to actually play and we're actually getting these fixtures, so you have got people developing through and almost building it back up that way. Have less, because a big focus on the community game and trying to get more people playing. Well, if you sign up for a club and your fixtures are constantly cancelled, you're like, well, do I bother re-signing next year? And then all of a sudden that problem's gotten worse because now can I be bothered? So maybe with the women's game, if not every club is offering one, then maybe you've got to go to the next town and you build it up,
Yeah.
and then maybe you get enough, and then you split the two teams again. It's almost, you get a problem like, biological background. If you try and divide your cells up like cells you're growing too thinly, they all die because you need to have a certain number for a population to grow properly.
It's worth
Even
pointing out that
I think in a similar way, on a sort of more macro scale, it's a bit similar when you're trying to grow rugby clubs.
yeah. Go ahead, Julian.
All I was going to say was, and I know that it's rich coming from somebody who's American, and we have a gigantic population, and we do have lots of cities where we have multiple clubs and they do fill out. That's really new. That also goes with the development of the game here, but I don't feel like it's a bad implication or a knock on the club system in Wales to admit that Wales is a small country and it's got 3 million people and not all of them play rugby, and it's probably half and half men and women. It's not a knock on any one club or another to point out like you're not pulling numbers, and especially for women. And I'm going to need Sean's help for this, but especially this last season, several of the top flight, and I forget what the top flight is, not the championship, but the good one, the one that the best teams play in. There were several instances where entire fixtures didn't go forward. Other than that, that's not great for the competition itself. All of those people aren't getting experience either, all of those players. So from their point of view, wouldn't you want driving an extra 10 or 15 minutes and being able to be on a team that has more than, they're lucky if they have 16 per match, and that begs for injuries, that begs for disasters at the last minute. You wake up and you're sick and now you have 15 people or 14 people. I don't see why it would be a bad thing to do that. And hopefully it wouldn't cause too much insult to anyone's pride.
It's worth pointing out as well that Wales has the most rugby clubs per capita and probably per square mile of anywhere in the world.
That's what some of the analysis that I already was seeing on places like Twitter were saying, and I was trying to understand that, but the percent or the ratio is insane for how tiny it is. It is a tiny nation.
I wonder if part of this is to do with I don't know what the word. I know when I was growing up, there was a lot more before the regions. Sorry, I'm going to go back into my old little in my day. Before we had the regions, there was so much hatred between the clubs, and people hated Cardiff. I mean, they still hate Cardiff, but it's not anywhere near as bad as it was. And it was all kind of like very much my village against your village. And I think there's still that kind of mentality a little bit maybe going on. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I did wonder that actually, just because and it's something that I pick up from watching all of your various shows and definitely from talking to Sean. I understand that there's a bunch of rivalry and somebody in Swansea doesn't necessarily want to play in Cardiff, and that I don't think that's what anybody is suggesting either. But sure, there's loyalties.
I
To
think
that,
it's
I
like
would
a
just
mental blocker sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
We're a little
To
bit,
that, I would say getting over that. Like, wouldn't that be worth it if it means that you're going to
yes,
really, yeah, if you're really going to move it forward? I think it's.
I think
yeah.
I
that's
think.
kind of the thinking that WRU was trying to get away from with the restructure as well
Mm.
recently, is the village mentality of
I think the regions have changed that thinking, but I think there's a bit of an apathy as well. I mean, I've felt it a little bit myself when we did go to the regions. I don't know, it didn't feel quite the same. It took me, even though I was lucky in my team was still Cardiff essentially. It didn't. I don't know. For a while, it didn't feel quite the same. And I don't know if that's a little bit of nostalgia, or I missed kind of like the old matches that we played against Neath and Swansea and all the. I don't know what that was, but even like I felt like, and I was like one of the lucky ones, in the sense that I always felt like I was quite lucky.
Mm.
So I don't know. I think I feel sometimes there's a bit of an apathy towards regions. And then we look at the Judgment Day, the other month. Was that last month? Now I can't. The weeks have gone by
I
so
think it might have
fast.
been this month.
Was it the big? Oh my gosh! It feels like it was a lot longer ago. But
Yeah.
like
It is the end of the month, to be fair.
like it's been a busy month. But like it wasn't. It was in the City Stadium. 20,000. That's quite. I was like, oh, that's quite a decent crowd. And then I was like, hang on, like they used to be in the Millennium Stadium, and they'd get
There was
like
never 20,000 there. I was there.
Not at one
yeah.
time.
I thought that they were like just being very optimistic.
They'd like you. They'd like you to think that there were.
But like I'm sure we used to. I'm sure the matches were quite
Yeah,
full in the Millennium Stadium.
68,000 10 years ago.
I'm sure when they started doing them, and I there's definitely been okay, part of that is because the regions aren't doing so well, but at the same time, I think like Ospreys and Cardiff was going to be a good match. I didn't go. Like, why didn't I go? It's kind of like, oh, it's that kind of yeah. I'm part of the problem, obviously.
Yeah, well, same. I explained my feelings and why I chose what I chose on RAP. I mean, I barely only just about watched the games because I was doing a podcast on them. At that point, loads of people have talked about it. Is it the wrong time of the season, whatever? But anyway, that's going on to men's game, and I don't really care about that.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so let's
just one thing I do want to bring up whilst we've got the slide up about the team. So it says development of 2 Welsh performance clubs. What that says to me is basically World Rugby have made us make Lightning and Thunder. So we're gonna pretend this is our thing now, and that we've done it, because obviously Celtic Challenge is a World Rugby funded competition. Just
yeah,
in case anyone listening didn't realise that's W have not put a penny into it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
mention.
are they finding a different? Sorry, I'm just trying to read between the lines. Like they want academies. Is that what they just like 2 performance academies?
Yeah. But then it's the clubs underpinned by sustainable competitive domestic competition, which they've given no real bones to. I mean, it describes the whole document. They've given no bones. They're slashing out. So is that going to be? They're going to just do a women's EDC, women's Super Rugby Cymru type thing, or are they going to have the regional side? Does that step up? And is that are we going to have a semi-pro? When you can get this semi, for professional to semi-pro division type thing? And there's just no. I mean, that's typical with most of your WRU documents. It's all very badly printed buzzwords.
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered about that as well. I mean, I know when Booth put on Twitter about wouldn't it be really good if the Ospreys had a women's team, and everyone like went mad over that tweet. Because I did. I was like, oh my god, that'd be so cool if we had like an Ospreys and a Cardiff and a Scarlets, but I don't know how. I don't know if that would ever happen. Certainly not right now because of money.
Because the region's problems.
Exactly, and it feels like there's so many problems going on. Yeah, I don't know. I feel the problem with the Celtic Challenge teams is they feel a little bit plucked out of a hat, and it's kind of like, ooh, we'll just have these 2 teams, and then they've just kind of thought, oh, well, let's just think of what should we call them? Just look at Wikipedia some Welsh related things, and then they've just kind of like they've just thrown it together. And I think the idea of it's really good, but I think the typical of WWE, the execution's been a bit sloppy. Like, are they just going to expect just random people? Are they just going to expect like people like me to go because it's at Cardiff Arms Park? Like, I don't know. What's the? I want to know what the rationale is a little
I
bit.
think they should have, because they've kind of subtly through the kits like admitted like it's East Wales and West Wales, but they haven't officially come out and said it. I think if they just came out and were like
Just
Britain
say
are
East
West
Wales.
Wales and Gwalior are East Wales.
Just say it. I think people would be
I
fine
mean-
with that, and then I think
Well-
they'd have more they'd identify with it a little bit more. I
It's-
genuinely do
it's-
think people would identify with it better.
It's such a Welsh rugby thing to even to have other models right near you that you could maybe take ideas from or even just think on more, and being like, no, we're going to do it our way. We're going to do it the Welsh way, even though the Welsh way doesn't work half the time. We're going to do it our way. It's going to be our well, no, but this is a really good point that you've brought up about the East versus West. Scotland had no problem calling it Edinburgh and Glasgow. Everyone loved it. It didn't cause horrible division. It didn't, take away any fans. In fact, they had a lot of fans. They also sold a kit, which ended up really great. But we don't have to touch on any of that. But there are good ideas around, and even around such a young competition. Ireland also, well, they haven't had the same challenges as the other two. They have their own set of challenges. But you can look at Scotland, who, by all accounts, was more, I would say, more successful in their administration of the Celtic Challenge. But there are certainly ways to do it, and definitely like giving people a little bit of identity. Isn't that a Welsh thing? Isn't that what they love? Why not?
I wonder if they kind of deliberately did it because they didn't want. They were like, oh well, we can't call it East Wales and then play at Cardiff Arms Park because
right,
people further than East and Cardiff might get upset. I think there might have been bits of that going on. Yeah,
there's a lot of we can't do that because people get upset in Wales.
Yeah, there's a lot of village preference. There's a lot of regionalism, but you're also allowed to tell your fans grow up. You are allowed to do that. Sports do it all the time. Every time there's a big social shift, we're looking at like equal pay between women's and men's teams, and it takes either the men to step up or just a governing body to be like, grow up.
Oh, Julie, you should have been here when they created the regions.
Yeah, I know. You've told me the story, and so many times throughout that story, my thought was if somebody had come up to those men and been like, "You're being a baby," maybe it could have gone different.
Let's move on.
Yes. I think we're done with the.
Turned it off. They don't want me to get the American on.
Go on,
We're
Harley.
done with the strategy.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we've done everything that we need to there.
I think we put more thought into it than WRU. Yeah.
We want to be better at rugby. Is the strategy. Okay, let's talk about PWR final then. Gloucester versus Bristol, aka Wales A versus Wales B.
And
How many,
fans.
Julia? How many Wales players do we think were on show in this game?
It was 11 at Gloucester, and so the number varies because Bristol sometimes has Kaylee Powell and Jazz Joyce. They don't right now. Sometimes they do. But in terms of Welsh that were playing in this match, it was 3.
Was it?
Wasn't it? Keir Bevan.
Just for Bristol, you mean?
Oh, no, you're right. It's 4.
I think it's 4.
Yes. Sorry, Courtney Keat. I forgot that you are back, which is awesome. She came for her 50th cap and had a great game. But yeah, her, Jenny Hesketh, KB, and Alicia.
Yeah. So it was 36 points to 24 to Gloucester in the end. I think most people expected Gloucester Hartpury to win based on the season they've had and the squad that they've got. Only 1 defeat all season, and reigning champions as well, obviously. What was people's view of the game? Sian, what did you make of the game?
Oh, it was a great game. It was a really good game. It was a great advert
really
for women's rugby. And I know that's a cliche, blah, 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 but it was. I really enjoyed it, apart from the only bit I probably didn't enjoy so much was the TMO again, but it didn't ruin it, I do think it was a try myself. But yeah, from a like I'm a Bears fan. They're my sort of number one team. We were talking about this earlier. Gloucester are kind of like my second team because I think when you're a Welsh rugby fan with a women's game, you end up gravitating towards the teams that have Welsh players. And Bristol obviously is quite close to Cardiff as well. But they had some of my favourite players, so that's kind of why I ended up supporting Bristol. But I do really like Gloucester because they've got there's quite a few of my sort of like other favourite players emerging, like Celia and Llakey George. I'm a big fan of hers. But so for me, it was really nice to see the Bears have a really good first half. Really thought that they had a chance to win. I actually thought, yeah, Gloucester were favourites, but at the same time, I actually did think that the Bears could do it. I did think that we had a good chance. I didn't think it was going to be as clear cut as a lot of people were saying. I think Bears have had a really good season. Half time though, I wasn't. Although Bears did have a good lead, I wasn't sort of overconfident because we know that Gloucester, the kind of side that they are, and I think that they're, the kind of team that, when you've only lost one game in the season, you get into that habit of winning. So I wasn't, that was what I was scared of essentially. And it kind of came true. I don't think Bristol necessarily did that much wrong in the second half. Gloucester just came out and they were just hitting everything. Their passing was really good, I thought. And then it's all those little momentum things. And then suddenly the momentum just suddenly was all Gloucester's favour. And even after the TMO that went against Gloucester, and I thought, maybe they're going to hold on. I don't know. They just seemed to just be pounding it through, really. And they just did everything really well. Like I said, some of the passing, I thought, Llakey George, I thought she's really...
She had a really great game.
Basically, she's just nailing it at the moment. And it was really good to see all the Welsh players all play really well.
It's quite, for me, I've only ever seen until the last couple of weeks Llakey George play for Wales, and the difference in seeing her play for Wales and play for Gloucester is night and day.
Me and Julia have been saying this for ages.
I have thoughts on this. No, we really have, though. There's really, and I can touch on it more when it's my little spiel time, but there is really something to be said for playing with confidence, with confidence in the team around you and the difference that you can see in a player. I'm glad you mentioned Cecilia. I think that's another one. But I think especially Wales rugby fans who might have viewed this as one of their first women's or PWR, watching PWR rather than Wales women. If that was you would have been very happy with this match. It was a lot of the Wales women playing with more confidence than I think we've seen them play in the red shirt in a while.
Scoring tries.
If you didn't know the results of the Women's Six Nations, you would have thought Wales, I think, would have, because I genuinely think that the semi-final and the final were like a really good advert for the Welsh players, to be honest.
Yes.
And I don't, if you
100%.
if you would like put me in a cocoon and then brought me out at this time, I had no idea what happened in the Six Nations. I thought I would have said, oh yeah, Wales have another good Six Nations, And in fact,
I would have thought,
struggled to win a game, basically. I mean, we were a bit lucky to win in the end. You got to ask.
I would have expected them. I would have expected them to be third in the Six Nations if they performed the same way that they did that season, last season.
Hannah Jones scoring tries in the semi-final and the final, but obviously didn't have the best Six Nations, shall we say? When she is relieved of the pressure of some of the other extracurricular things she has to do, and when she is allowed to be a center, which is what she is, some backs can be utility backs. In my opinion, she's not one. I think she is very position specific. But when she's allowed to do the things that she likes to do, and that she does consistently, like many of the Welsh players, she's great. She's got endless patience. That's what you need. And every try that you were talking about was brought by just like doing simple things well, and not having to worry about kind of shepherding everybody around you to get everybody to play like one unit, which I think is something that the Wales backline struggles with.
Yes. I think rugby's all about doing all the simple things well. It's all about doing the simple things well.
Yeah, the biggest compliment that you can pay a rugby player sometimes is they run straight.
Yes, but
It's
but
true
it's
though.
so true. It's true, and that sounds like something Sean has said that like word for word before. Because, but it really
Probably.
is. Sean, well, Sean is a quintessential back. I think you are also technically a utility back. I think you played in several. Yeah, and it really is though. It's not actually that simple. There's a lot of
I
technical,
mean, we
but
say this about passing, like saying Flaky George, her pass is like, and it's the pass that makes it. But then they're not always that easy to do when you're running a full pelt, and then the player's got to be timing their run and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit harder than just saying it's simple, but yeah.
but I mean, and that necessity goes back to trusting the people around you, and of course playing a ton
100%.
with them. Yeah, being able to read their minds, but really a lot of that just comes with like knowing that somebody is going to be there. Mo Hunt talks about it a lot when she was asked about like what is the special sauce for Gloucester, and she was like, we all know because of practice
Mm.
exactly how this person is going to perform on my outside. Even if I can't read her mind, I can guess close enough to what she's going to be doing that I can make my little changes that an elite player
Yeah.
does. Yeah. I think actually we saw a lot of that from both sides, but I think we really saw it from Gloucester, and that's something that they do. I think it's one of their hallmarks.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just a few stats from the game. So, Bears actually had the better of possession and territory.
Yeah, that doesn't
And
surprise me. That doesn't
Very
surprise
much
me
so.
actually.
And that's Bristol's MO is ball in hand, and that was I think it was their biggest hope coming into this, and I really think it's why the first quarter or the first half went the way that it did.
uh, uh,
But they
uh,
love ball in hand.
so
Mm.
to that point, so a big difference that I'm noticing immediately to most of the men's stats that I look at is that total kicks in this game was 20, not each, total, which is
So
not
I
very
would
many.
I would like to put an asterisk there because that is a Bristol signature. That is a big part of Bristol's game. It's one of the reasons why, honestly, I'm also yet again Bristol's my first, Gloucester's my second team. What I love a lot about Bristol, and it speaks a lot to Dave Ward as a coach. They really like to whip it out wide and they like to run. We saw all we saw was getting it out to the far channel in the first one. Get it to Renika Bonner. Deb Wills is out injured, but that's also what they would do.
Sarah
And
Byrne will be on the wing. Just get it.
sure,
She'll pop up on the wing.
but that really is, it's half funny, but it's also true. Sarah Byrne also started in the centers way back, just like Cecilia. But yeah, you can even get it to Sarah Byrne. You can even get it to Evie Gallagher.
Sam
I
Monaghan.
mean, yeah, Sam. Oh gosh, which I hope she's okay. She took a blow in this game. For anybody who didn't get to see, took a blow in the game. Hopefully it's not the 3-letter that
I
we are
know.
hoping that it isn't. But yeah, I'm sure we're gonna get that update soon. But yeah, getting it out there. I was hoping that you would do this. We already knew that we were going to be talking about this before the game happened, but I knew that you were going to touch on it, and I was hoping that you would see throughout the game. Bristol doesn't kick. They've got great kickers. They can.
Bristol's
But they
men
don't.
are the same. Bristol's men won a game in the Premiership this season with 4 kicks, which is pretty much unheard of.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
very
It is.
rare. That's
Yeah,
really
it is
rare.
club gossip that Dave Ward and Pat Lamb are always talking strategy, which I think is pretty cool. But I don't want the Bristol men's ideas because the Bristol women perform better. But that's very different.
That's true. The kick to pass
Yeah.
ratio for Bristol of 1 to 31, which is very, very a lot. Don't
Yeah.
see many stats like that.
Oh, damn.
Gloucester as well,
Yeah, that's a
190
really
tackles made in this game, which kind of shows how much pressure Bristol put them under.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that
Absolutely.
that doesn't surprise me either.
Yeah, Bristol, another thing that they love. I mean, they're a very forward focused team. I don't know if you have the ruck speed data there already, but hitting rucks, using them as your primary mode of forward movement.
I do have ruck
right up their
speed.
alley.
Okay.
I'm very curious actually about how we did at rucks.
Basically the same for both teams, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, most over 60% for both, less than 3 seconds, which is quick.
That tracks with the game.
I was just going to say it also speaks to, also if anybody who is watching or listening didn't see this match, if you like scrum halves and just watching scrum halves watch this game. Kira Bevan versus Mo Hunt is insane. And especially because we were talking about being at the back of a ruck. Yeah, there was a lot of rugby fuckery.
Gloucester got 70. So Gloucester actually allowed Bristol 17 offloads. So Gloucester didn't really try to stop Bristol's offload. So maybe that suggests that there was a plan of kind of what we've seen in some other games as well of Gloucester knew what Bristol were bringing and were happy to keep them at arm's length of you can do it as long as you do it in your own half. As long as you're doing it in your own half, you're okay.
I'm sure they also know, and actually there was a media piece coming out before that was with Hannah Botterman and Alicia Butchers, where Hannah Botterman made a small joke about knocking on in their own 22. But that is, jokes aside, that is one of Bristol's weaker points, is conceding penalties, honestly, anywhere, which is really not great. But it's because they believe so much in their recovery and their ability to gain back the ball on the ground. That you end up seeing something like that.
The penalty count did swing a bit in the second. Like I think Bristol did concede a few penalties, and again, when it's that momentum.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that's the difference.
And there was that one critical moment, and I saw it from people who do rugby analysis. The one critical moment of that ruck that ended up way too slow. Alicia was on the back of it. She decided not to scrum half, and it ended up a complete rollover. And it's that sort of
absolutely. Yeah.
And that was an example of some of the baffling penalties they gave up.
Speaking of knock-ons, though, there wasn't actually that many. So there's 5 scrums for Gloucester and 2 scrums for Bristol. So 7 scrums in total is not very many, both 100%. Line-outs, 17 line-outs for Bristol with 82% success. So that's like losing 3 or 4, I guess. Gloucester, 9 line-outs, lost 4 of them.
Yeah, they lost a few. Yeah, their line-out wasn't...
Yeah, I think...
I remember even the announcer was saying that that the lineouts were bafflingly bad for Gloucester.
They also pointed out, though, that at least with the BT feed or TNT Sports feed I was watching on, you've got to remember is Abby Ward and Alicia Butchers are 2 of the best lineout poachers in the PWR.
That was where I was going to go. They're 2 of the absolute best, and they're coached by Dave Ward. It's 2 lineout operators being coached by the guy on the other side.
Ender told me last night that the game was on iPlayer as well. It wasn't just on TNT. I was fuming.
I didn't know that, and I wish I had known that.
Oh, sorry, I could have told you that.
Yeah, that would have been because
I would have watched it for my friend Sean.
I hate TNT so much. Okay.
I know it's always a relief when it's on iPlayer.
I have really not liked. Nah, that's not for any of this. I have really not liked TNT's work on the PWR, to be honest. But obviously,
at halftime, I can't remember if it was this game or last game where Ugo tried to start a ref chat. Oh no, it was in the stands. He interviewed one of the coaches and was like, "What we made of the referee?" And the coach was like, "I'm not slagging off the referee."
It was Dave Ward. Dave Ward was like, "Well, I'm not going to go down that road." I'm not going to go down that road. We're just going to stick to our plan. But. He rolled his eyes. Like, oh, come on, man! And it's 2 guys who have played the men's game together. You know how annoying it is.
What about some other non-Welsh players who stood out then? Zoe Oldcroft is top of most of the stats.
100% tackle success rate.
It's
insane.
I think Laura mentioned everything. Playing like someone who wants a central contract. If only she had Wales ancestry, because I'd be on the phone trying to pull it. Because she would solve so many of our problems.
We have to dig in her family tree.
Like she would walk into no offense to the Welsh team, but she would walk into that team.
Solve so many of the problems. She's
several
the main goal kicker.
Yep.
She's a goal kicker.
Yes, she's an incredible goal kicker.
She adds that set.
Really
she's
good.
very physical, and actually she can sort of do the playmaking thing, so it could potentially take some pressure off Lakey George in that respect, as well as just kicking the line. She can do her game.
Yes, she can run the game from the backfield, which is really, and honestly, it's a problem we have at the Bears. I really like the Bears 15s. They happen to be 2 Welsh players. Happens to be Courtney Keat and Jenny Hesketh. But if I'm to be completely honest, neither of them have what she has.
I like it. Emma Singh she's got quite a big physical presence, and she's quite tall, and
She's
I don't know.
tall. She's super tall.
I think having a player like that in the back line in your weaponry is kind of like is it just gives you that a bit extra dimension.
It feels comfort. It feels like a comfort. It really does, knowing that you have that.
Wales lack that kind of physical presence in the backs. I think sometimes we lack, we lack a bit of creativity, but we also lack a bit of that variation.
In the same threat as well, Tatiana Hurd as well.
I was about to mention Tatiana Hurd. I thought she had a fantastic game. I thought she was outstanding. And again, we talk about the Welsh players, Llakey George and Hannah Jones, and they're playing. If only we had another player like Tatiana Hurd in the Welsh side, because she is something else.
And she's another one where she's great at the number that she's at, but honestly, other than maybe like fullback, I don't think there's anywhere I wouldn't put her. I'd be fine with that, with her game reading and the IQ that she's a super quiet player. She's known like on the Red Roses for it as well. She's not a big personal presence, but like when she's on the field, to have somebody with that physicality and the awareness, the game knowledge, the ability to run the field when your 10 is busy, it has proven to be so perplexing for everybody she plays against. And like, even France back in the Six Nations, I don't remember who they were talking to from France, but they were like, she's always causing problems.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of causing problems in this game.
Speaking of players that we think might be Welsh, is Pip Hendy Welsh?
I know. I got asked that, Sean. Is she? I mean, she definitely hasn't come through the age grade.
Pip Hendy is a Welsh-sounding name, and she looks Welsh.
Now I want to know.
I don't know.
You guys keep talking. I want to know why she did. Well, it's funny that you bring up eligibility, and we were just talking about Tatiana Hurd. I don't remember if it was you or somebody else that I was telling, but I came upon the worst news of my entire life, which is that she is USA qualified.
Oh.
Her dad is American.
Sorry, Julia. Sorry.
I can't believe this happened to me. Tatiana Hurd, if you're watching, and I know you are a huge fan of the pod, if you could just do 3 short years of stand down, I mean, you'd have to live in America, but other than that,
that'd be cool.
Girl, you could come and be on the 3rd best North American team.
I mean, I understand. I'm not over Meg Jones, to be honest. I'm not over that.
So
I was joking with another Welsh podcaster about exactly that. We do have a good center. She just isn't wearing the right shirt. Anyway, go on.
So Harley, wrap up thoughts on the game, mate?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good thing. Again, I think it shows how much of a superpower having a reliable goal kicker is in the women's game.
Absolutely
that
right.
scoreline is a lot closer, going towards the final 10 minutes. And also the psychological thing of if you're 21 points to 7 down, as opposed to 17 points to 7 down, I think. All right, it's only 4 points, and we lost by because I like the other 2 guests in the pod. I am a Bristol Bears fan. Who
like also a Bristol Bears conspiracy.
Yeah, it is. Sort of thing. One thing I did say, unfortunately, no good for us, but for the Red Roses, Hannah Bottom and Lark Akin-Davis as a duo and the way they sort of bounce off each other carrying was absolutely wonderful to see, and I'd love to see more Welsh sides.
100%.
Both genders, regional and national. I'd love to see more of that sort of.
Rugby Pass has got Hannah Bottoman down as 118 meters, which sounds like a classic Rugby Pass wrong stat, but
no, that is just how women
playing well.
She is a prolific carrier.
Yeah,
absolutely.
She is playing really well.
And that is also a hallmark of Bristol. You can tell by the way that they've recruited it. Actually, I'd say the way that they rostered for the final. I have my one stone cold take that everybody rightly will get mad at me for. I don't think it was super duper necessary to push Sarah Byrne to return.
I agree. I'm glad.
I
I'm
just
a big fan of Sarah Byrne. It was
love
really
Sa-
nice to see her back.
I love
But I
it.
agree. I don't think I'm not sure if that was. Yeah, it felt quite
In
a lot for her to come
in
back
it
from injury in a final.
exactly. And in a game that you knew that she wasn't going to be coming up against, like, well, I was gonna say DMP, but they're out now. But she knows she's coming up against Cecilia Tuipulotu and Maud Muir.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a bit of a push. And I mean, I wish she were healthier at the same time, but she wasn't. And I think if she were at full health, or maybe we put her in the second half rather than having taken her out when we really needed a gust of energy behind us.
Agreed.
I'm not saying that I think it could have fixed anything, but when we're
No, and there's
talking about,
and hindsight as well, obviously. But yeah,
exactly, and yeah, of course, I was excited to see that she was back fit. And it's not like, she's not Welsh, so she doesn't need to be back in form. But one thing that I worry about was we saw Kier Bevan come off injured. I'm really hoping that's nothing, because we have Spain coming up, which I'm guessing we're about to transition into.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, we've got the Spain match coming up. And that is one of my concerns. We didn't expect that Kier would come off at all in the final, and she came off in the 65th minute. So hoping for the best there. But otherwise,
Yeah. So BBC Sports Wales put out a quote today saying Wales flanker Kate Williams says the team are fully focused on Saturday's WXV clash playoff with Spain, which is a relief. You'd hope that they would be. Imagine if
I
they
mean,
asked. Imagine
I
if they asked
imagine.
her, "Well, how are you feeling ahead of Spain at the weekend?" And she went,
Shit.
"Oh shit."
Yeah, shit. Well. So I'm really glad that they got Kate, and that Kate sounded sober, because I would have assumed most of the Gloucester girls got sober in the last 12 hours, because I saw their after parties and they were all still completely hammered on Monday. So we laugh, and I'm glad. I want them all to party, and all the English girls got to go have a hell of a time, and that's awesome. But truly, there were people like Cecilia Tuipulotu and Kate Williams who had to. I'm guessing they're back in camp already.
I wouldn't be surprised if Cecilia doesn't drink.
No, Cecilia doesn't drink, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But thinking of some other people who play for Gloucester, they do.
So, how are we feeling? So, a preview about Spain. So, Spain walked the Rugby Europe title again. They normally do.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they've played a couple of games against Canada lately, or a Canada B team.
Canada A, yeah.
And I know they lost the first one by a point. I don't know how the second one went. Has the second one happened? It must have happened.
Yeah, it's happened, and I think it was also a loss, and it was super narrow. But either way, that's 2 games that Wales didn't play, and that is concerning.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about it. Definitely,
I'm really nervous.
Like, on the one hand, I'm kind of like, oh well, the Welsh players, a lot of them have been involved in the PWR final and all this kind of stuff, and are kind of like, they were playing well, but the Welsh,
but not
we know
together.
this. Well, exactly, and we know this from the Six Nations, that something was missing in the Six Nations.
It was time together.
It's time together. I don't know what was going on, to be honest. Something wasn't quite right. The whole tournament. And they only really put in
took a dive.
Proper, and they only really put a proper performance in the last match, really. And we only just won. And
I was going to say, we could also say that Italy lost that match more than Wales won it.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. 100% right. So I am quite nervous about this game. If we play, I mean, you would hope that they would have had confidence about beating Italy. But that's there's a bit of a gap
weeks
now.
ago. Yeah,
exactly. It's not like the first game in the championship, and then 2 weeks later we have that momentum. We've also had this gap again. I don't know how much time they've spent together. I don't know how much they've trained since then. So I'm nervous about it.
The most they could have trained was either, maybe they got to camp yesterday. Today is a Wednesday for people watching in the future. Maybe they got back to camp Tuesday. We haven't, and we know WRU loves to put out a million footage of here they are all, running laps or whatever. We haven't seen
the
anything.
gym.
We haven't seen any extremely not
There's been
helpful videos of.
There's been very little actually. I've been keeping an eye on
Yes,
that,
same.
and there hasn't been much
Because
about it.
Well, I wanted to bookmark when they got into camp so that later when I'm analyzing it, like how much time they spend. We don't know that they have. I'm glad they trotted Kate Williams out to say something. I'm hoping what she said means that they're in camp.
So
They
Scrum
did-
5
they-
have done a podcast with them in camp yesterday.
Oh,
Right. Okay.
oh, wow! Great job getting it out there, guys. What did they say in it?
Don't know. Only just
We
found
don't
out
know
about it
yet.
myself.
I haven't listened to
I
it.
have listened to it.
Oh, of
Oh.
course you have.
Please.
I don't. I'm being so mean
I'll
to
be
Harley
honest,
today. I don't
there
know
wasn't
why.
really much said.
Right.
Oh,
That was
Great.
Great.
there wasn't really much to say. It was quite sort of fluff and filler. So they had Molly Reardon.
Do you want anybody to show up at this
and-
match?
Yeah, they've got a-
It's a good point. There's been no build. I was expecting a bit more build up.
Don't
And
get
don't-
me started on marketing in Welsh rugby. Oh, you'll be here all night.
Yeah, I know. True.
Well, if
And
they're
me as
gonna-
well.
if
It's one of
they're
my
gonna be-
bugbears.
if they're going to be one of the first to run their mouth about, we need the crowd behind us. We really like all that noise. God knows they need something to boost their morale. If you need people around to boost your morale, you should probably make them feel like you're doing team stuff. So Harley, what did they say? You said it was just bluff. Never
So
mind.
yeah, they had so that you said it was Molly Reardon and Gwennon Hopkins. So they spoke a little bit about Gwennon Hopkins' first couple of caps and the impact she made off the bench. And then Molly, they were talking about her transition from scrum half to hooker. They had a little bit with in the preamble because they had Philippa Tuttiett on, who's always actually quite good value, and she was sort of giving a lowdown
She
on
knows her
Spain,
stuff.
sort of reiterated the points that Hugh made about Spain's preparation. Said, it's probably more like Spain are basically sort of like the Georgia equivalent of the women's game.
Yes.
And sort of that they're walking the rugby championship.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
when you say is Wales Georgia, it becomes a lot more terrifying.
Yes.
Well, I see them as Georgia insofar as and the argument has been to a lesser extent than it is in the men's game, but there has also been a corollary argument in the women's game for, of course, the Six Nations should just straight up be expanded. And if they were for the women's game, it would certainly be Spain. There's no question.
Well,
Spain
Spain used to
has
be in.
been.
They used to be
Yes,
in the.
Spain was in the Five Nations. And yeah, and I don't remember who else wasn't, but Italy wasn't, and someone else wasn't.
It wasn't Italy. It wasn't Italy. I think. I can't remember now. I remember
They
seeing
definitely
Wales
weren't-
play Spain. It was good. They were good. They were really good.
Yeah. And I mean, and Spain now, well, actually, I'll just drop this as well. Spain now, I'm even more afraid of. I've talked about it before on other episodes about what I perceive as some leadership problems on the Welsh team. And I will tell you, Spain does not have that problem. Spain's captain is Laura Delgado, Bimba, who plays at Gloucester, in fact. And she is a hell of a leader. She's a hell of a motivator. Ever since she came in and took the place of Patricia Garcia, all the media that I've seen out, and I do understand Spanish. I don't speak it that well, but I do understand it. Everybody seems so encouraged, which is great considering Spain as a governing body. So it's good that somebody feels good.
So
It's a really
I'm
good
looking at the World Rugby's rankings, which is always a mistake. But so Wales are 7th, 8th.
Eighth.
Spain are 13th, below South Africa and Japan and Italy, but Ireland are 10th. And we know how that
Yes.
went.
Right.
Yeah, I remember I was looking at the rankings not that long ago, and it didn't feel right. It didn't. I was like, well, it doesn't really tell you that much, does it?
It's because of
one of the quirks of
Depends
the
on who you're playing.
one of the quirks of the rankings is that it
games
exactly
played.
depends on who you play. But if you've got someone like Russia who have been excluded from global sport for
they're
so
still
long,
on there,
it
which
means
you
they
hate.
haven't played anyone, which means they haven't lost any ranking points. So
Right.
Russia in the women's game is still ranked 15th.
Yeah, that's not right.
Right. Yep.
But yeah,
Julie,
yeah,
is there
I don't
much,
know. I wouldn't take that much.
Is there many sevens players in the Spanish team?
Yeah, a good few. Claudia Pena, in fact, who is a crossover, just because they are in the same position of just they don't have enough players to have it completely divided up. and they haven't necessarily decided the same way that like Ireland has kind of been like, all right, forget 15s, we'll just focus on sevens. Spain hasn't really done that yet. But yeah, there are a few prolific sevens players that also cross over to 15s. I'm guessing they'll show up for WXV. I think they are actually, well, it depends on how things go at the Olympics, because I think they are going.
I think they are.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they qualified.
I can tell you, I've got the tab open because I was looking at it earlier.
Okay, great.
They are not going.
Oh, I thought they were.
Yeah,
No.
I could have sworn
What's the men's?
Right, yeah.
the men's Spanish didn't.
So
But I
I'm
think
looking at it. Oh, this is according to Wikipedia. It's Australia,
Oh.
Brazil, Canada,
Mhm.
China,
I mean,
Fiji,
China would.
France, GB, Ireland, Japan, New Zealand, South Africa, USA.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Oh, they were the big upset. You're right. They were the big upset at Madrid. That's right. That they
Was
did.
it? Was
not
that when
qualify.
people were having conspiracy theories about GB had to make it, so GB snuck in? Or was that just the men's?
The women
because GB
the
didn't make
women
the
haven't
men's.
qualified.
Okay.
the men didn't qualify, and the women
No.
qualified in Singapore, I think. Because the women medaled, or maybe it was Perth. Either way, yeah. Either way, they knew, or else I think if they didn't, we would have seen Jazz Joyce in probably the lineup this weekend. If they didn't, I would assume. But yeah, another Spanish star just signed for Harlequins.
Harlequins.
I think they're going to
Oh.
start. I think they're going to start coming up in bigger
Because
numbers.
I saw her Spanish kit, and there was the one that looked like a Barcelona kit, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I wish there
Yeah.
was more kits like that."
So funnily enough, because I have a lot of friends who also watch soccer, there is a Barcelona, of course, there is a Barcelona rugby team, and for some reason they mirror a lot of the soccer stuff. Which I find kind of weird because, like, if you're going to go against, at least for the women's game in soccer, the best team on the planet, you better be that good. But
Oh yes, it's like the football one.
it's sick.
That's a cool shirt.
It's a sick shirt.
That is well cool.
Anyway, yeah, I'm excited for the weekend because I think it's going to be really good rugby. I really hope that the good rugby isn't only from Spain.
Wales should win, but that's the case. That was exactly what we said about the Six Nations as well. And it is going to be a case of the Welsh team is going to have been thrown together a week ahead of the game, and the Spanish team will have had the better prep.
They've played 2 tests. We have not played a test since the Six Nations.
Yeah, and we were saying earlier about Kira Bevan. If Kira Bevan is out injured, that is going to be
then we have 1 scrum half. Then, I mean, we have Meg Webb, but I think we're transitioning Meg Webb fully to the centers, which they had already started doing. I think when they knew Sean Jones was going to be as good as she was, I think that was when they finally said, like, yeah,
we do what the men's team do. Who's the next shortest player, and then they're covering scrum half.
I mean, that's what Cardiff did.
That's what Wales did with Sam Costello. That's what Cardiff did with Rupert De Beer.
I'm trying to think then. Oh, well, that is still Meg Webb. So we're fine.
All right. Okay. Let's get some.
I just thought there's the other option of Molly Reardon covering scrum half.
That's true.
That is true.
That's true. But actually, because of Kelsey's injury, no. Because then
she's covering hooker as well.
Then we only have CE.
We'll have to get Ellis Jenkins to cover scrum half. That's the only option.
Ellis Jenkins in a wig.
Apparently,
it's fine. I'll bring my boots on Saturday. There you go. I've got it covered.
Oh my God, that actually does work, because as I was joking with some of our dual friends, no, in order to be a scrum half in Wales, you have to have either Bevan or Sean in your name.
There you go then. Sorted.
It all works.
Don't worry, guys. I got it all covered.
Thank God. Right. Message Joan Cunningham. It's all right.
Oh God.
Let's get some score predictions then, Harley. What Wales going to get it done?
I don't do score. I always do. I tend to do margins, but I think Wales should. I think Wales by about 4. I think the forwards are going to be good enough to sort of bully Spain a little bit, and hopefully the big problem for Wales is going to be sorting out that back three defence, because their wide defence was honkingly bad during the Six Nations.
It would be quite weird for Spain to be in WXV3 because Netherlands are in WXV3 having beaten Colombia to get in, but obviously Spain trounced Netherlands in Europe. WXV3 is a bit of an odd competition.
It is, and Ireland said as much when they were in the position that I think Wales very well might end up in. And when Ireland came back from it, I mean, it might just be where Wales ends up, and that's just the story. But when Ireland came back, they said that, it was fun. It's not like they're saying it's a bad competition or anything, but it almost felt counterproductive because when you're winning by that much and you're trouncing everybody, you aren't learning. And you're putting yourself at injury risk. But
I agree. I actually think Wales could do with winning a few games though. Like we've just
that's what I've been thinking about.
I was
what
saying earlier
ever since
about
I was thinking
like Gloucester. I kind of felt like they're so used to winning, they go behind 17 points. Whatever, we're still going to come back. It's kind of like I think Wales. I don't know. We've just got into a bit of a losing-y habit, and they could do with getting a bit more confidence back and maybe having a couple of big wins. I don't know. Might do them good.
So,
that's exactly how I'm thinking of it.
So Lauren Jenkins made a fairly similar point on Scrum 5, and she said maybe actually what the problem with, and also parallel with the men's team, but maybe the problem is with playing all these elite teams, you're not getting the time on the ball to actually work through your attacking structures and defense.
Yes.
So maybe actually go into this lower league where maybe it's not as good a defense. You can get your shapes a little bit better, and then you slowly build up, and that's something that's helped with Ireland as well as a confidence boost.
Yes,
but also because they were 3 games they could just walk over their opposition. They had the chance to experiment, whereas like in the Six Nations you don't get that. And
but
in WXV1 you'd have to play your best team pretty much every game.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd argue maybe WXV2 you'd probably get a better balance of.
I really feel WX,
but
I really think 2 is where Wales belongs. To be honest, when you look at the pool for Wales or for 2 rather, those are a lot of teams that I think. Well, first of all, any of those matches could go either way, and I'm just a fan now, so I just want to see good stuff. But those are all teams that are feasibly beatable, or that we have actually beaten before. Obviously,
it's kind of stacked at the same time, though.
Sure.
Like what?
We would
Scotland,
would
Ireland,
like
USA,
stacked, right?
Yeah.
Italy. No,
it's
not Ireland.
Ireland.
Ireland in WXV. It's not Ireland. Ireland in WXV1. So it'd be Scotland, Italy, USA.
Now this isn't an Ireland-centric cast at all, but God, that's going to be so interesting. Going from 3 to 1. I'm just really interested in. Yeah, and I mean, especially all of us here having been most recently in 1, perhaps wishing we weren't. It would be great if we could reap some of the same things that Ireland did.
But Japan and Fiji in 2 as well.
I believe so.
Together?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I'd have to double check on the thing. It's a really awkward way they've structured it. 1 down to 2 makes sense. Like the division with 1 and 2 makes sense, and the six nations and the Europe nations make sort of sense because there's that many teams. But then because you've only got a Pacific 4, then it's not really like the thing below the Pacific 4 is just Japan and Fiji playing each other.
Yeah,
it's quite a weird one.
Okay,
which
so
I
according
think,
but the other carrot,
which I think should become Pacific 6. So go on.
So the other carrot on the stick for winning this game is it gives us qualification for the World Cup.
Yeah, that's
the other character. Otherwise, the next qualification spot is to win WXV3.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
How we ended up in this situation. Right.
Exactly.
So the teams are in WXV1, Canada, England, France, Ireland, New Zealand, USA. Oh, yeah, because USA beat Australia, of course.
Yes.
Ireland, USA is going to be an interesting match. I feel like there might be some one-sided scorelines in that. WXV2, Australia, Italy, Japan, Scotland, South Africa, and then either Wales or Spain. That's an interesting competition.
That's what I'm saying is that's a really great pool.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm gonna be watching. I mean, I can't think of a lot of matchups between those that are like super straight predictable.
You say
Agreed.
Japan are probably the weaker of those, maybe. It's hard to
Depends.
judge Japan because they just play Fiji all the time. Like,
Yeah.
so you can say whether they're good compared to Fiji. And WXV3 is Fiji, Hong Kong, Madagascar, who had that amazing famous win to get into it. Netherlands, who were in it for the first time, Samoa, and then Wales or Spain. Yeah, we can't be in that.
And
We
by the
don't
way,
belong in that group.
just for the viewers, it's also Madagascar's first.
Yeah.
But
They're
yeah,
massive
no,
on rugby in
Yeah.
Madagascar.
Yep.
It's amazing to see. Like
It's
it
so
is a
cool.
genuine
to see the
national sport.
footage of it, and it kind of it's the kind of stuff that makes your hair go up. Like I get really goosebumpy about it because it just looks amazing.
There's still some bloke from Pontypridd saying they'd have more if they based their team there.
Yeah, they would.
Sorry, that was a very Cardiff joke. That.
Oh my god!
And if everybody's willing to if everybody's willing to schlep down to South Africa for URC stuff, why not?
I can tell you it takes less time to get to Madagascar than it does to get to Llanelli. I can confirm that.
It can take a long time to get to Llanelli. Yes.
You need a time machine to go to Llanelli successfully.
Right, let's
just alienating a lot of people here.
It's fine. They're only Turks. They can't speak English.
Only people who get any of these jokes are Welsh people. Now you're just making half of them mad.
Okay, right. Let's wrap it up there then. So, oh wait, no, Julia, quick score prediction: Wales, Spain.
I agree. I'm gonna say, I am gonna say Wales by 3. But I think it's gonna be low. I think it's gonna be low score in general. I'd say maybe like 17-14.
Sean?
Yeah, I think we'll just scrape it, but yeah, it'll be like 4 points or something like 15-12 or something like that. Yeah. Is that 4 points? Did I just do the math wrong? I did the math wrong. That's 3 points.
Women in
around about those kind of score. I was always bad at maths, to be fair. But that kind of score line.
If Harley's allowed to laugh at it, you are.
Oh no, I'm terrible at math.
Cool. I think it's going to be one of those situations where all the hipsters are all like, "Ooh, Spain could do it," and then it's a blowout. I'm a hipster, so I'm one of those people.
That would be great.
I would love that.
I think
happy.
I think it's also I think it's also very typical Wales rugby fan to be like, we're gonna bottle it.
Yes,
and then be wrong,
definitely.
which is great.
I think because of what we alluded to, Wales's forwards are coming off PWR competition, and I think it's just going to be too much for Spain to handle.
I think if they get their cohesion back, they are all coming off PWR, which is great. But of course, there were some that were missing, and in fact, there are. Oh well, I guess Sian is still injured, but Alex isn't injured. Alcal isn't injured. She hasn't been playing with anybody, but she could probably figure anything out. My only concern is that maybe they haven't gelled yet, but otherwise, there's no reason they shouldn't. On paper, they should win this.
On paper, we should win comfortably, but we know that's not always the case with Wales teams. Yeah. And the
worst thing of all, I don't want to send any of those girls to Dubai.
Yeah,
there's that as well. There is, yeah.
What a place to hold a women's rugby tournament.
Oh my god. The sport washing, especially after the Qatar announcement.
Oh my god, I'm just so over it, and it's just doing my head in. Just every new tournament, they're like, "Ooh, Dubai." It's like,
what we should do is send all of these women's players who are all married or dating each other to Dubai.
Wild.
Right, on that note, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of my guests, and thank you to everybody for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time we do one of these. Don't know when that's going to be, but there will be another one, so stay tuned.
Go Wales.
Go Wales.